Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're thrilled to be here this afternoon with Blake and Gorgori from Equalizer Finance, which has been the one of the hottest Solidity forks, solidly forks. I type that too when I do that on any of the chains, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to them and learn more about the project and how they got here and plans for the future. So with that. Gorgori, if you'd get us started and just give us a little, brief introduction about yourself and your background and how you got here, and then we'll let Blake do the same.
Yeah, sure. Well, so I have a very diverse background. I'm kind of anonish, so I don't give out too much information. I've met many people in conferences and stuff, but try to stay low profile on Twitter and everything. So yeah, I have a background in the corporate world. I worked actually at IBM for 6 years. And then I've been doing different, working as an entrepreneur in different online business and stuff. And basically fell through the crypto rabbit hole. I think it's probably not even 2 years now, or 2 years and a half, I think. And yeah, it's been a ride. When I learned about DeFi, I just went deep down that rabbit hole and ended up deciding to pivot into working in the space full time. And yeah, I started working on different projects, collaborated in an NFT project, which is the Alpha Fiends, which is my PFP, great team on Phantom. And yeah, that opened me. I got the building bug, basically, from that, and just wanted to do this full time. And just DeFi is it's a whole new frontier on which to make a real impact. So it's amazing to be working in this space.
Yeah, very cool. I wholeheartedly agree. It is quite a deep rabbit hole. Well, cool. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, so my background probably is quite similar, I suppose, that entrepreneurial business, sales, marketing. Originally a mechanic, actually, and I was just in a YouTube live the other day, and I thought, it's probably something to sort of bring up, because that was sort of my foundation, and then I moved from understanding how cars work to understanding how business works. Sold financial products, all sorts of stuff. So I think, again, you move into this decentralized world, and then you move to the next step where you start to really go into the decentralized finance aspect of it, and all these things start to marry up, and they start to make a lot of sense to you. So yeah, my background, I suppose, is quite diverse, but I think that's sometimes where a lot of these great sort of backgrounds come from, where you start to understand different elements, different business models, different financial vehicles, all sorts of stuff. So the more you understand about all this, then sort of brings you along this journey where you end up launching a platform to allow people to do swaps on Fandom. So yeah, I suppose a little bit of my background there, but happy to move forward and chat about other stuff in relation to Equalizer.
Yeah, awesome. So now would you guys tell me just a little more about how you came together as a team to start this project, why you decided to do specifically Equalizer, and then we'll get into the specifics of the project, if you don't mind.
I'll jump in and answer that. So it's a long journey. When you try to start a project like this, you start with an idea and then you expand upon it. Basically, you also then start to try and build a team around you of people that are like-minded, have the skill set that are required to launch something of this sort of level of complexity. And that's where Gorgori and I came along. Before that, we did have a lead developer, which no longer is with us, and there's a bit of a backstory behind that we won't go into. But with Gorgori there, we got started pretty close after we started coding, and I came across Gorgori through one of the Discord groups a while back where he was quite interested in Solidly, so he made a logical choice to start to unwrap the protocol and how it worked. And obviously we had a lot of alignments in the way we thought about it, and it just made a lot of sense. So it sort of came about, I suppose the team and the gathering was initially trying to find the right people to create that team, because there's a bit of a vision in play, and then when you find people that have that same vision, it just all starts to click together. And I did mention that we don't have our lead, our original dev that did all the contract work, but then you move into this new team, which is like where we've expanded further and further. And these guys have sort of come on in a later stage, even after launch. We've got 543 who's doing our back-end development with the smart contracts. And that aspect of our team really came together out of the initial launch and the buzz and the things that we had to jump on top of. But then you find a person that's just, unbelievably capable when it comes to coding out anything, basically, or creating a function for anything, or adapting a system in the way it works when you're coding in Solidity. So he was just a great asset, because you found a person that had so much understanding of Solidly from a contract level. Probably I'd go as far as to say up there with the top people in the space of understanding all of the functions and the calls that you're looking for in that Solidly program. So that's where 543 joined the team. And then you move on to Jay, which is doing our front end development. We initially got the front end developed for us, and we had a team that were helping us with that. But Jay has been a recent addition, and he's come on to really revamp that front end for us. It's already starting, and there's a lot going on in the background there, a lot of code base to get over. But Jay's just got this huge software background, and again, another person that just gels straight into the team. And you start to find this team gelling together, and the ideas that are going are just amazing. Our Discord chat went from a few channels buzzing to 44 in the background. So the team's really started to come together there. And then we've added Jeff, who's, just written this unbelievable medium that we're about to release, and, starting to do all the graphics. And so Jeff's just come on from community member status, that was just working hard in the background, doing things with no requirement for recognition, where you go, this guy's, doing unbelievable stuff. And that's where Jeff came along. So we've built this team, sort of almost, in some ways, it's just come together, and all the pieces of the puzzle have just slowly fit together as required. And we've been, not too fast to move on the team. We want to make sure we've got the right people. And I think we've done we've really started to come together, and the team's feeling like it's working in sync really, really well.
That's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing it. I love hearing how teams come together and cohere in DeFi. I think it's a really important part of the story, right?
Let me add some color to that. So basically, we met with Hoops on I don't know which of the 300 Solidly servers, trying to figure out how the system was working when Andre deployed those contracts with no docs. And what I remember specifically is that we were both at some point, all the drama had already started, but we were both looking at a few pools that were actually working, they were printing. And not many people had realized that. We were chatting in those groups, and I don't know if I mentioned it or Hoops, but we both agreed that if you looked at the volumes and you chose the pools with high volume, there were some pools that were working, even in the middle of all the I don't know, the crisis that was that early Solidly days. But we basically we're looking at the same things. And then when Hoops offered me to jump into the team and start building this, I was like, okay, I need to know exactly what we're going to do to make sure that it's something I want to participate in. And he was describing all the changes he had thought about for the protocol. And I basically agreed with all of them. It's not so easy for that to happen. And like actually some of them, I remember the last one I asked about was rebases, and I was like, wait, what happens with rebases? Because in my mind, I already thought that rebases were the only part of the model that's really not proven to work. And he was like, yeah, we're removing that. I'm like, okay, let's do this. That was pretty easy. It was amazing because like it was so easy. Once we started talking, we basically agreed on everything. Hoops had already thought about every single detail, but like everything made absolute sense for me. So yeah.
Very cool, and perfect segue. Now, let's talk about how Equalizer is different and special from what has become quite a wide variety of solidly forks now. I've got a pretty long list of ways, and I'm sure you guys have even more than that I don't know about. But why don't we start with the fair launch and and your flat airdrop and approach to decentralization and governance, which I think kind of ties into whether you rebase or not as well.
I'll jump in on that. Yeah. So I suppose where we started with our fair launch idea was effectively we saw how Solidly launched with a perspective that it was to be a fair launch, and we thought that was pretty cool. But we didn't think that giving protocol NFTs out was advantageous. And I think the first pitfall that I saw there was that you gave these NFTs to protocols who then didn't have an incentive to participate, or not the level of incentive that you wanted them to participate. And I'd almost call it, like when I saw it, an issue, because these emissions, or the reason you bribe or try and acquire via NFTs to a certain degree is to incentivize those pools that are inefficient. So especially from a bribing aspect, you top them up with bribes. And if you give these protocols these tokens or these NFTs that they can direct emissions, they're going to do it to these inefficient pools. So you make a portion of your platform inefficient by design. So that was the first sort of area that we were like, okay, we want a fair launch, but we want to incentivize a community-based. I would suggest we're the first to go to more of a retail setup. So we're more like focused on, we wanted to start with a community of retail people as our first level. And that's where we went with the airdrop. And the airdrop was purely to basically be like your free gym membership, get people on board, but also to incentivize them to start to live in the protocol, understand it, and assist other people within the community. And I think that's where we got this whole fair launch, a bit of an airdrop on the side to get that first bit of momentum. Because when you're starting a protocol like this, you need momentum. You need people to believe in it with you. And I think giving them a free piece of it up front allows them to see the rewards. Like I'm looking through Discords and stuff, and I see people saying, "Oh, you've changed my life with this airdrop you've given me. Like it's just printing every week." And these people must be like the biggest advocates because they've got these airdrops that are just continually printing. And then you move on to removing certain aspects like the rebase and stuff like that, which we did to try and really fair up that system. Like I don't think that we've seen a successful system with a rebase yet, and or not that's lasted more than 12 months. And that's where we wanted to make the adjustments early on. So I think that's
to add something about the distribution, like not giving out NFTs to protocols allowed in the first few epochs, we had like almost 50% of the votes. That means 50% of the emissions of the protocol were going to the Phantom USDC pool, which we had identified previously that's by large the largest pool in the ecosystem. So allowing us to get like 46 or 49% of emissions going to that pool allowed for a huge amount of fees getting into the system initially. That was super important for the efficiency of the system. So once the bribers came in and started bribing, there was a base amount of like bribe dollar amount or whatever to compete with these fees that were going to the voters. So that was super important for the system to start like building from the real yield that is the fees into the, well, it's also real yield because they're bribers paying for that, but you could argue there. But the fees are absolutely real yield, and that's like where the system was like strong from the beginning. I think that was super important, and that wouldn't have happened if many protocols, as Hoops mentioned, got free rides, because they would be incentivizing pools that might not be printing as hard as the Phantom USDC pool.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm really curious. Would you talk a little bit more about fees and revenue structure? Because I know this is one that a lot of DEXs have had a big problem with, even though they've done huge volumes. You know, they find that they generate a few $1,000s even a month, and can't pay their teams. So how has this impacted that? How do you think it will going forward? And how stable do you feel as the team with ability to support yourselves?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you find or you're looking for with the Solidly model is that every person that purchases your token and locks it or farms it and locks it then becomes entitled to the full fees of the pool. And your emissions token is feeding this liquidity to continue to grow it based on the price. In our case, with the tokenomic structure in an equalizing model. But the way we sort of break it down, like very quickly for ourselves, is that we've got to focus around volatile pools. So we saw the Solidly model at 0.01% of a fee, and we times that by 20. So we made it 0.2%. So obviously you can imagine straight away, the moment you do a little bit of volume there, you're getting 20 times the fee. So we needed to focus there. We've obviously done a lot of research on Curve as well, which has done remarkably well for the platform it is, but it's 0.04%. So again, we're, like sort of a 5x on their fee structure. So you have all these fees, you have all of this revenue coming through, and we look at it as basically every million of volatile volume you can do, you're bringing in $2,000 worth of fees. So, we're running at, say, $10 million worth of volume today, roughly, give or take a little bit of stablecoin volume, which is obviously at a lower rate. I think there's about $1 million there, but call it $9 million then, and you're looking at $18,000 for the day in fees. Plenty to feed the flywheel and get people excited about the Equal token. And we've seen a little bit of dip in the whole market, and straight away, like the APRs have just gone wild. And our biggest thing is educating people about these APRs, because we have so much revenue share coming back that it's probably a little bit too high in regards to, you're looking at us at the moment based on last week's revenue on today's token price, about 152% APR when I did the calculation. Now, to put that into perspective, Curve's doing 13% APR. So we're a 10x on what you can expect if you were to buy Curve today and try and take the revenue there. Yes, more of a proven protocol, been around a lot longer, but like we're talking a 10x on the ability to earn. That obviously we had our the way we've been able to operate so efficiently is that our team structure was to own NFTs as part of your your onboarding process, and those NFTs mean that we don't have a share of like Equal. That's something that that a team in the future would have a vested state, and they'd lock it. Then they'd sell it at some point. For us, we can earn the fees and the bribes that are obviously on top of this. So we've got that extra revenue stream of bribes really kicking in now, and then that sort of keeps the team sustained. So we're pretty open about not having to touch treasury or marketing in any way at the moment. Like apart from we've given some bribes out of treasury, we're really not spending any money to keep this running, which is very, very sustainable in what we're doing. And I think that's the biggest key is, you need to be bringing in revenue, and you need to have a way not to have to use your own token to generate or to pay for expenses.
Yeah, and not many protocol designs allow for this perfect alignment of interest between the team and the protocol. It's specifically because Solidly is designed to give 100% of revenue to the token holders that lock the tokens. Just the team having vested tokens just means they get a share of the revenue, and that's it. It's like maximum incentives alignment. That's something I think about a lot in crypto, like try to see where the incentives are, and people are going to do what the incentives tell them to do. So I love how we have our incentives perfectly aligned with the protocol.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that was a great summary of why we're having Solidly fork season right now. Right, the same value prop is present to some degree in all of them. Although clearly we have something special, and I'll disclose at this point, by the way, that I am an investor in this one, so you can take things I say with a grain of salt. But that said, if you how about your approach to emissions and locks are also different than we usually see. Usually protocols start with super high emissions and then taper them off until they hit zero. And usually they want to lock things for as many years as imaginable.
Probably not the view we took there, but I'll let Grigori jump in there. I've done a lot of talking.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick recap for maybe people not so familiar with the Solidly model, the rebase system. So basically, the concept of B33 that Andrew introduced is puts together two models or two kind of token systems, which were Curve's V token, which when you have to lock your token to be able to participate in voting to direct emissions, only that the great feature is that you only get the emissions from the pools that you vote for. That was, for me, one of the biggest innovations in Solidly. And the other protocol that inspired Solidly was Olympus DAO. Olympus DAO introduced the rebasing system, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but let's say it wasn't as successful as Curve's model. Okay, well, let's leave it at that. So yeah, it was something, as I mentioned earlier, was something I kept thinking about a lot, and Hoops like, yeah, we're dropping that. Okay, awesome. So the system has, instead of the rebase system, again, the rebase means that every epoch, tokens are minted and distributed to all holders in order that for them to keep the same percentage of the total ownership of the protocol. And this is problematic for many reasons. Also, the rebases are dynamic, so the more tokens are locked, the less that are emitted. So the emission schedule is not predictable at all, and this is one problem. And the other problem is that the new people or protocols that want to get a share in this governance because they need to drive liquidity for their tokens find themselves in a problem that maybe there's a whale that owns, 50% of the tokens, and then there's another whale that owns 30%, and then they just can't get a fair share of the protocol. And I'm not talking about any other protocol here, just an example. So yeah, dropping this, what we introduced is a linear, I don't know if you call it linear. Basically, emissions decrease by 0.5% every epoch, every week, for the first 104 epochs, that's 2 years. And then they start decreasing at 0.1%. So you basically have a nice curve of decreasing emissions, which tend to zero in an infinite amount of years. We did some calculations, and actually that's like a theoretical maximum, even though there's not a max supply. But basically, after 10 years, you only have like 15 million tokens. So it's really nice how the emissions decrease together with on the other side, the protocol growing. So it should bring a very stable emission schedule. And we're seeing it's working really nicely in this first 12 or 13 epochs that we've had so far. I don't know if that was only half of the question.
Yeah, very, very cool. No, great answer. Yeah, so the other half is how are you thinking about the lock period? So I know you've gone with 26 weeks instead of what the typical 4 years, but which seems to me like a much more DeFi appropriate time frame. How has the uptake been? And if you're able to compare, to maybe other defunct similar projects, if not live ones.
Yeah, I think the 26-week lock has worked really, really well because it's probably a very nice sort of middle ground to sort of sit on. And you're talking about a 24/7 market, so it's running like at the speed of light when it comes to the amount of time that it's open. So 4 years becomes like, in traditional markets, like 25 years. So I think, locking for such a period is in my opinion, too risky.
Yeah.
26 weeks.
4 years is a meme. Is a meme in crypto, basically. It's like it means
yeah,
forever.
If you're locking, call it a sink. Call it a sunk investment almost when you're locking for that period. The other thing that we've really found that helps, and this sort of, some things you do and you think it's going to work really well, and then you find an additional benefit that comes through as you see the data. But our locks actually unlock a lot quicker because you're 8 times less lock period, but that means that your decay of your vote power is 8 times faster. So it adds for a little bit of gamification within the protocol because you need to be locking every week to maintain your vote period. Also, when you vote, your vote power is slightly higher. So there could be some calls for an early vote if you wanted to try and structure it and get a slightly higher share of the fees. But I think then people say, oh, let's wait to the end because that's where I'm going to know where the bribes sit. So there's definitely some areas that can be focused on and you can sort of use it as a gamified approach. But the 26-week lock just seems right with us. And I actually have found with the secondary NFT market doing so well and the percentage that people are willing to sort of take that ERC wrapped version as a purchase is also sort of making it like very very advantageous for people to continually lock each week, because if you were to run your lock out and providing that obviously the secondary market stays at the same level, you would actually be a lot worse off because you would continue to get less and less fees and bribes each week until you're equal unlocked. And then, yes, obviously it would be liquid again, but you would have missed all of those fees. And if you just got this NFT, locked it for the 26 weeks, kept locking it every week, you would then have had that opportunity in 26 weeks to sell it at a better rate. So I think there's definitely some aspects that have worked really well there. And I saw a comment in our Discord the other day from DL, and he popped it in there just around, if you actually look at it from getting our token and locking it and earning the fees with our secondary market being so effective at the moment, there is another case to say that it makes a lot of sense to farm that token, like Andre created it or was intending initially, to farm that token, lock it for the period, and then just receive the then just receive the fees and the bribes that come through for that. And when you finish, if you are finished with it, at some point, sell it on the secondary market at 80 or 90% of the value of equal. I think that's an interesting way to sort of look at it and go, well, I can have the best of both worlds here. I can farm for this stuff, getting this, then compound it into this locked version, which then gets all the fees at, the current calculation of an average of 150% APR, keep that running for 10, 12 weeks, and then pop it on a secondary market. So I think there's a lot of different strategies that haven't even been tapped yet with our system. And the more we grow and the more as a community we talk about it, the more these strategies are going to become evident to maximize this 26-week lock, which effectively I think gives people more incentive to lock it because it doesn't feel like an eternity.
That's incredible. If the resale value is 80 to 90% on even an occasional basis, that is that. I mean, that I think is the one part of these, right, that hasn't been super well proven yet, because not many have had enough volume over enough time. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
Yeah, definitely. And you probably just seen, or you may have noticed, we just had the largest sale ever on PaintSwap. So 105,000 FTM for one of ours that was sold through there. And like they're going like 80 to 90% is exactly what they're going for, like hotcakes. Like I keep seeing people are missing them within 10 minutes. Like, so that market is working really, really, really well. And we're working alongside PaintSwap pretty heavily, and they've been great. And also, making adaptations. I think that, and this is credit to Grigori and 543 there, they went really hard in developing the first FNFT in the solidly space that had, much more effective data as the overlaying, what do you call it, like graphic, I suppose, for a better word. They'll probably say I've used the wrong word there, but it calls all the data and then implements it and then pushes this really, really nice picture of an NFT, I suppose, that can show you in 2 seconds what is locked in there. The vote value of it, the influence that it has over the votes, the strength of it. There's all of these things. When does it unlock? How long is it remaining? All that sort of stuff. So now we have all of this data presented to you the moment you have a look at one of our NFTs, which I think was an innovation that that really sets us apart. That we're sort of innovating even on that NFT side, and we'll continue to innovate in that area.
Yeah, and I can vouch for it. Right, it shows everything. It's very, very slick. And I buy it. It makes sense to me that generating an active secondary market is the key to everything else continuing to flywheel.
Yeah, and that was part of like the original ethos, or the original idea of this that appeared in the mediums that Undercrunch published about Solidly, but we never saw it in reality, like sales in secondary market. I haven't looked too much at other forks, but I don't think that they have a lot of liquidity. And many of other forks focused on liquid wrappers. Actually, original Solidly had this boosting system where if you have a big NFT, you get a boost on your farming LPs, the way that Curve does. And Velodrome had already dropped that, and we totally agreed that the system worked much better without the boosted farming. So we also kept that outside of the system, and that allows for a convex layer to not be needed at all. Like, it can happen for other reasons, but it's not an absolute necessity. And then wrappers for your VNFT are also not really needed for this reason. So this and the focus on innovating in the visual part of the NFT, creating these SVG dynamic images that are basically on chain and are reading all the metadata and showing it to you in a nice looking image instead of like white text with like you need a magnifying glass to read it. I don't know if you had ever seen the original Solidly ones. So pushing that and working with the PaintSwap team to bring liquidity to this secondary market, I think that was a very good decision to try and help. Like, the market decides, obviously, and right now it's one discount and it could be another, but like making trading on the secondary market easier allows for like an equilibrium price to appear, and it finally was like 0.8, 0.9. It varies a lot depending on what the market is looking like, but yeah, the market did its thing when you allow it to, so it's great.
Yeah, and very cool that you guys have taken it appears every opportunity to make choices that will maximize the distribution of the token rather than centralizing it amongst the first few holders. So good. So now I have to ask a question or two about security because, of course, we're in DeFi. So I understand there was a minor exploit early on. Would you mind giving us just a quick rundown of what happened there and how you were able to recover so quickly?
Yeah. So I think that was very interesting and from a team's perspective, difficult time. I think we were lucky it was in our early stages. And there was actually, in my opinion, we launched too much too quickly. We went an airdrop, and this is a lesson for anyone that's launching. We launched an airdrop 3 days prior. Then we launched the platform. We had the voting going on in that period. We launched the platform and an overlaying staking platform all at once, which meant two dApps running alongside each other, trying to support it all. Plus, you had your airdrop, obviously that was supported in that. Sorry, started only 3 days earlier. So you just had this whirlwind going on. So the first issue we had was that after 24 hours, our system that was distributing the V equal as an additional incentive in this farm, there was an issue there, and that basically allowed one person to go in there and sort of start to scoop more than they were entitled to, or take the basically take the V equal that was meant to go to other people. So we stopped that very, very quickly. We saw that happening. It was sort of coming through on the blockchain, and we could see that one wallet was exploiting it. So we quickly stopped that within a couple of hours, sort of thing. Then we did away with that, and I think we learned very, very quickly that we bit off more than we could chew trying to launch all of that with a small team. Even a big team would have struggled to launch all that. Then the platform ran for a few days, and our lead developer, as I said, which is earlier, which is no longer with us, somehow his keys were compromised. Now, I sort of investigated, and you can investigate whether there was, whether it was intended or not. We could still be investigating that, wondering. But what actually happened was someone had the private keys, and they changed the deployer address and minted some extra tokens and sold them on the market for a total of, I think it was like 35 million. No, it was $3,500. So we had one of the smallest exploits of all time, and probably the biggest catalyst to drive us forward as a DEX, because that was where we had to quickly scramble and prove that we could jump in and be ready to handle any situation, to be honest. So at that point there, we investigated very, very quickly, removed that developer, regardless of whether it was intentional, unintentional, an accident, or whatever. There was obviously no cause for us to continue. We locked down very, very heavily with the now lead developer 543, which is a very, very he runs his own protocol, Elite. A very, very renowned person within the Solidly space, and it actually became like our number one driver to then excel further out of there, because I'll be honest, working with the two developers, not being someone that codes yourself, have a very, very broad understanding of it, and I'm looking through code all the time, so it's not like I don't see, I just you can't do it. But working with two developers and the differences is just mind-boggling. 543 is in it for the tech, and there's a lot of developers that are in it for the money, and that stands out hugely with him. Like he just wants to do the best and make the best system possible, and he wants to look at every avenue for improvement and enhancing, and have these constant sort of open discussions about why do we think this would improve here, and do this and try this, how do we think that would look. So you've got a guy that literally is working on Christmas Day now to enhance the protocol and come up with benefits and improvements to the code. So I know it sounds bad to sort of label an event that went terribly wrong, but to be able to secure it and come off the back end with one of the best developers in the Phantom space, I believe, was just instrumental in the success that we've had today.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for that. And I'm a big 543 fan as well. As I recall, recently there was a rug, and he built a very quick front end to allow people to emergency withdraw without using the contract. I don't recall which project it was, but it was a pretty epic save for a bunch of people.
Yeah,
I think it was Dictum, but yeah, it's like there you go. For someone that comes in to another chain, puts up a front end like that, like I think it speaks volumes. Like you just don't see people like that, and it's quite humbling to have someone like that work with you and come into sort of in some ways save your ass a little bit, because you're battling in the background to try and find someone to help you even keep it running, and then you find like one of the best guys in the space. So we've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's very cool. And isn't it stuff like that, right? That brings you together and makes you stronger if it doesn't kill you. So we see, you guys have been getting a ton of support from the Phantom community with a bunch of projects beyond just of course Elite, Phantom Guru putting their main liquidity there. So what has been your approach to partnerships and general community engagement? Do you offer anything for partner projects? Is getting whitelisted permissioned even, or permissionless?
So we run a permission system for whitelisting, and that process, we've been building on it as we go. And I think when we started, whitelisting was like very, very crucial, right? Because you've got people that will be able to have so much more influence on the protocol in that early stages, as the emissions are not really spread out across certain aspects. So whitelisting actually took us a while to get it off the ground and come up with a system that was even remotely workable between all of us, and we've taken the team approach to that. But effectively, once we got it going, we're starting to see that we were able to relax a little bit and allow people to sort of come in from that aspect with new projects. And it's sort of been able to give people like that little entry, a little bit of we're now being whitelisted, and we've had a lot of requests, and there's some that we don't take up because we're obviously yet to have someone come onto the protocol and do a rug. We want to keep it that way. So yeah, we're running with a pretty tight whitelisting program at the moment, and it seems to be working there. We do help people on board. So any protocols that are coming on based on their liquidity level, we do a bribe match system, manual system. So I'm loving it. I was building another spreadsheet the other day to try and keep track of it. But we basically we bribe match to the percentage of their liquidity level on chain anywhere. So if they're over 1 million in TVL across any network, we're willing to give them a 30% bribe match in equal, and we do that for a 4-week period. So everyone's entitled to it that gets whitelisted, and it's been like sort of one of our drivers that helped us get those first people on board, I think, and it made sense for people to give us a try, because we live in a world where it's very lucky that our protocol, it's not like you're signing a contract for 5 years, right? You can just come over and give us a try, and then what we find is it's once you give us a try, you don't leave, and that's sort of the ethos that we take, is that we want people to come over and give us a try, and then I think when you start to see the returns come through and the emissions and how it can benefit your protocol by reducing the emissions that you need to give out because of the flywheel effect that's in full play at the moment, yeah, it really incentivizes protocols to come on, and we give them a little boost to get them started.
Yeah, that's very cool. Makes a lot of sense, and I think there certainly are positives to both the the permissioned and permissionless approaches. But I think that again, it's cool to see you taking the high touch approach there.
Now,
just on the sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, but mind you, it's only permissioned to be able to create a gauge. You need to be whitelisted, but it's permissionless to create a pool. So anyone can create a pool. So if you see a pool on there, it's not that we're endorsing it straight away. Like, someone could come on there and make any pool. That is the permissionless aspect of the DEX. But they're not entitled to receive emissions to try and stop the gaming of the system. So,
yeah, and we're not endorsing the ones that we whitelist either, because that's something important. The only thing we're actually trying to do is to protect the system from its main problem, that is that if you whitelist what was called Batman Spider-Man pool in original Solidly, which is basically I create a token like, I don't know, a Gorgory and a Hoops token, and we just pair it together and we own all the supply. So that's what the Spider-Man Batman tokens were. And basically you vote for yourself and you get all the emissions. So that's the main thing that we have to look at to avoid. So again, that's the weak point of the system, and that's why we kept it very close to our chests in this initial initial times. And yeah, there's no perfect system for permissionless whitelisting yet, and maybe when there's one, we can look at it.
Yep, yeah, I remember Batman, Spider-Man. So good. I've got just one more question for you guys, and then if you have time, we can try to get a couple people from the audience up if we have questions from the audience.
Perfect.
So my last question is, what's next for you? Are you thinking about expanding to new chains and conquering the world, or looking for new partners on Phantom? What are your long-term goals for things?
It's a pretty broad range, but I think onboarding people to DeFi on Phantom is probably our biggest goal at the moment. So we've managed to start to do that. I think we've got a lot of people coming back from other chains, and that's been instrumental to the success of the platform. And we're on a constant path of that. So we want to make it easier for people to interact, and I can see Jay is there on the line as well. But we want to make it easier for people to interact with our system from the UI. So that's where we're doing a fair bit of adapting. But for us, I think a lot of the users we want to attract are people to come and swap, because they generate fees. So we'll be developing and making it even easier for people to swap on the platform. And that's going to be a core focus. Jay's got a really big focus, and he can even have a chat if he wants, but he has a big focus on mobile first. So you build your platform starting at a mobile sort of infrastructure, and then move to your big, large screens and through your tablets and this and that, which is not really how a lot of sites or dApps are built. So, we have that focus on just getting going with making sure that everything starts to work properly and size is right and everything on mobile, then make sure that it's working on mobile, then we move to desktop. So I think, we're trying to make it easier for people. And as more people come on board, they are going to want to interact on their phone while they're, hopping on a train or a bus or, leaving work, whatever it is. And I think our biggest sort of advancements are going to come in the space of onboarding and education at the moment. So, we're about to go a lot further into the YouTube space, and that, should hopefully have a lot of educational material, because what we're doing is very complex. And we need to continually educate people. We have a system that's complex, so you don't want to make too many adaptations to it. People come to us with ideas, and sometimes you've got to say like, whoa, like every change you make can really, make it harder for people to operate your system, and cause a lot of support issues and things like that. So we're very clear on, we know what we are. We're a liquidity hub. Our job is to continue to draw liquidity. We have a system to do that. And then our other job is to drive volume to utilize that liquidity in the highest level possible. And obviously other change, that's definitely something to focus on, but I think you want to dominate the chain you're on first. Yeah. You want, like, the moment you lose laser focus, on what your core goals are, then you start to, run around and chase your tail a little bit. So, our core goal is number one DEX on Phantom. That's probably obvious for most to see, but we just got to keep our laser focus on drawing more liquidity into Phantom, bringing other projects on, showing people how great it is to operate on DeFi, teaching them our system, and then we can start to expand. Because once you go to other chains, you've got a whole new different community to consider. So, what works for Phantom people doesn't necessarily work for people on Ethereum or ARB or OP. So I think, you've got then this segmented community. So we've seen what happened if you don't get it right with someone like a Sushi Swap, which I think is one of the lowest performing DEXs on Phantom. So just, but obviously has a big presence on ETH. So we just need to be careful about how we do things, and we like to, test a little bit and then make sure we're staying on top of it.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks so much, and I appreciate the focus. And as Phantom was my first chain as well, so I love to see it. So great. So if anybody in the audience would like to get up on stage and ask a question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, if you chat at me in the DeFi Raiders Discord or tweet at us real fast, perhaps we'll catch those. And Blake or Grigori, do you guys have any closing remarks while we wait to see if anybody wants to ask questions?
No, I was just going to add something. I'll just say it. What Hoops was saying. The Equalizer, basically the solidly model, but the Equalizer in our case system it's really complex. For users to provide, not really complex. For any advanced DeFi user can do it, obviously, but it is complex, and that's why we have a big focus on education. But it's complex for the farmers and for investors that want to participate in governance to get the voter fees. But on the front, for the people that just want to swap, it's just another swap page, right? And so that's why the focus on there to onboard a lot of new people can be a little bit different from the focus on getting people farming. Like, not everybody wants to go into a complex system, and that's fair. But the swap page must be super easy for anyone to use, and so that's another focus that will have kind of the same, but at the same time a little bit different from the focus on explaining the complex system that Equalizer is. I don't know if that made any sense, but.
Yeah, super important.
Very good point.
Yeah, identify separate groups of users and serve them differently.
That's it. Like, we have two types of user and two types of users, and I think that's very, there's there's three really. There's the farmers, there's the governors, and then there's just the people that want to come and swap. And you've got to make it easy enough for everyone. But the people that come to swap are probably the lower, like, their level of understanding that they're just coming there to swap. Their level of understanding is probably lower or less of the whole DeFi thing. So you need to make their experience even easier again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much. I'm super excited to see the education stuff you guys will put together, and of course, we're DeFi Raiders is always happy to host or contribute as is useful to you.
Well, what we're going to do, which is good to point out, and I really want to get some level of community involvement on this one, and obviously anyone that wants to learn. but we intend on doing a YouTube live where, whether it's a weekly call or we do it bi-weekly or whatever, but we're going to open up YouTube live. We're going to open up the floor for questions and then demonstrate. So I think this is going to be, we'll put out an announcement soon of when it's going to happen. But what we're going to do is effectively allow people to ask questions, and I'm going to answer them on the spot, and I'm going to move through the system and show them certain stuff like, back-end blockchain stuff even. Like I'm happy to move into the contract side. I'm happy to, show exactly what this means or how that works. And I think that is going to really help people, ask targeted questions and get that help that they might still need, and maybe make a few things click. But we're hoping to do that pretty soon, get a session out there. For us, it's not that hard to organise. Obviously, get a YouTube live link out and then operate it and operate on the spot and show people what's available. But definitely keen for any questions in the community. Happy to answer anything. And I think, every question that comes to us gives us another thing to think about. So we're very happy and open to any questions.
Yeah, very cool. I think it's we got to take it as a testament to how good a job you guys have done that there are no questions right now. although I look forward to these YouTube lives. These will be fun. So, and certainly, of course, feel free to send your community team over to shill them in our server.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very excited for the YouTube lives. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I hope they don't give me a question that I get stuck on now. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. So, but I'm pretty sure that we'll get through anything and everything that people might have a question on, and make it a really, really fun experience. But at the same time, like a bit of a whiteboard session where we're showing you it on the screen. Like we're really making things sing and dance for you. But I like your comment as well that if there's no questions, then we've done a good job. Either that or everyone fell asleep.
Yeah. Franco has a question. He says, the weekly admin is probably going to discourage normies maybe be able to lock for X weeks, which of course it is, but it perhaps worth going through that lock mechanic versus relocking one more time for everybody.
So the question is saying that the administration work to operate the system is going to turn users away. Is that the question?
Yeah, particularly about locking and relocking. It sounded like.
Okay, so the relocking aspect, like I probably don't share exactly the same view, but again, here I am, fully immersed in the world of DeFi, doing 500 TXs a week. So I don't think that, I don't see it as much of a problem, but maybe it's an education thing to show people how easy it is. Like maybe if you had 50 NFTs, like it might take a little bit longer to do. But we do have a system that we're looking to implement, which will basically, make that process more automated when it comes to, have something that does a relock and then votes for you. To make things easy. But the way I view it, and maybe it's not exactly how everyone will view it to participate, but I think of it like a small task each week that gets you paid. So, it keeps you invested and your eye on the protocol, which is good for growth for our protocol. But it keeps you sort of understanding and watching your investment as well, so that you're making sure that it's sort of, you're a bit more active on it. I don't think it's the hugest thing, but I think maybe we can show people how to, be more comfortable in the system doing it. I think that's probably our biggest area to focus on.
Yeah, and there will certainly be optimizers. We know of a few teams looking at that already, and so there will appear optimizers for people to delegate their votes at some point. We even have some ideas for in-house products to make life easier for retail users that might not be so like hardcore farmers that are, as you said, if you're already doing 100 TXs a week, just doing one more, it's not a big deal. But not everybody is looking at their investments in the same way. So on the one hand that, and on the other hand, the system governs itself. It's like a self-optimizing liquidity machine. And so we need active users to drive liquidity to the right places. So that's the other half. So while optimizers can exist, and certainly they will, to make life easier for users, we also need engaged users that look at the numbers and make sure that they're acting in their best interest every week, because their best interest is the best interest of the protocol at the same time. That's the beauty of the system. So yeah, there's those two things.
Well, Franco says he meant voting now. But I think kind of the same answer applies. Although if you guys want to add anything specifically with respect to voting, feel free.
What's the question? What should you vote for?
Same question about just the weekly admin of voting. But I guess the answer really is that it's that wrappers will appear and will take care of it for you eventually.
Yeah, and also like there are some people that are looking at the numbers up to the last minute and doing the math. And sometimes they're only getting maybe like an extra 10% APR for the votes than if you just like choose 2 or 3, not random, but just like choose some high volume pools or a few projects that you would like to receive bribes from and just vote for them. Like all the APRs end up, how do you say, like getting into the same average kind of. I would say like between 100 and under 150% on average. So like it's okay to underperform sometimes. And like if you're a user, just pick the top volume pools and you will be doing great. And just choose one project that you want bribes from, and you'll be okay. You don't always have to max out your investment. So.
It is uncanny though how every epoch, within the last 2 hours or so, all the vote APR, bribe APRs, equalize themselves.
Exactly. I actually vote on Tuesdays because I'm like, someone do the job for me. I'll be okay. As a team, we're also sometimes voting for like not the optimal APR, but like for the health of the protocol. So we are even more okay to underperform that maybe other users, but. Yeah, it's fine to vote on a Tuesday or early on a Wednesday and let the other people just do the math for you.
Yeah, I usually vote on Tuesday too.
I think that's a great point. There is that I don't know if you need to get every single percent when the returns are that high. Like I see everyone like really going over every cent. And I suppose maybe from our perspective, because we are more about voting sometimes for the health of the protocol. That again, I'm voting a day or two.
We need the people doing the math last minute. We can vote on Tuesday because there's someone voting on last minute. Okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. We do need the people that are there to make sure that the votes go to. We don't want to go in with bribing X amount and then there's no votes for him. So definitely the governing people that are doing that are doing a great job, and that I love that they're working it out. But if you want that lower level engagement, then the opportunity's there. So you need to or you can just put a vote on and be very, very happy with what you're getting back, because like I have not seen a protocol in the real yield space that outperforms us. And it's early stages, and obviously as we mature as a platform, I expect that we will see those APRs not as high. But as Grigori said, when you've got a team that, in cases of voting for a lower performing pool, like, for me, all the time I'll vote for Equal FTM just to make sure that we sustain that token itself for the good of the protocol. But I know that the return on that is, going to be a much lower APR. And a lot of people may not be voting for that. So if we're saying the average is 150%, then there's people out there getting 200% APR, because I know that I'm voting for that at 66%. So people out there are getting 220% to vote on these pools. So it's just absurd, the opportunity there. And our job is to keep educating people about this. I think we've got... we've got a lot of education to do because the returns and everything is just insane at the moment.
Yeah, and besides the investment opportunity, the learning opportunity from looking at our system, not even participating, but looking at how the Equalizer works. Like, this is in the frontier of like what's being done in DeFi. Okay, this solidly was like an out of this world innovation, but from Andre, and like we think we took it to another level with a few important changes, and like learning this system it's like if you like DeFi, if you're interested in DeFi, it's super. Like, basically I ended up working in this project because like it solidly V1 blew my mind. I was like obsessed with it, staying up like late every night investigating and trying to understand how the protocol work. So yeah, stay there and keep learning because it's the way forward.
Yeah, very cool. We're all excited to see how it continues to progress. It's still very early days here. So, well, cool. Well, thanks so much, Blake and Gorgori, again for joining us. This has been the Equalizer Finance team. I've been Degenik, and we're DeFi Raiders. Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's been a pleasure. This is a Twitter space. It has been recorded. We will also post it to YouTube. So if you're listening to it or watching it after the fact, please like and subscribe. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks.